topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Mindset Marketing Mastery, the show that brings you the top speakers in the marketing and video industry. With your host, Marie Mason.
Oh, I just love that beat. How are you today?
Hello.
Buddy? Welcome back. Oh my gosh. Welcome back, everybody, to the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show. Do we have a show for you?
We do, anyway, like every Thursday.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's why we have a great show every Thursday. It's the highlight of my week. So, and getting to spend time with you and everybody, like our guests and all of our wonderful listeners. So we have some surprises coming up that I will share towards the end of the show. Because I don't think even Pliny knows this, as I'm launching something new this month.
It's a surprise for me too.
It's geared toward, because guess what August is? It's not just a summer month, but it's a go back to school month. For me, it used to be September when I was growing up. They keep changing it on me, I tell you. So anyway, but let's get to the marketing tips, or the top tips of the week first.
Oh yeah.
And then
I like the way we are starting with that.
Yeah, it kind of gets people like mind going and stuff, right? So definitely don't miss out on this one. So this week's, I decided I'm going to share something, and hopefully Pliny will give us some tips, some special tips on video and stuff next week. So we'll see. I'm going to talk about that afterwards. So anyway, long story short, basically I wanted to ask everyone, have you ever wanted to know how to increase your engagement on social media? Well, this week's top tip for marketing is just about that. So it's about the 3 tips on how to get more marketing engagement on your social media, and I'm going to rattle them off real fast. So 1, personally, I do my own marketing and quotes for that will help stand out above the crowd. But I also do some that will share. I also share other people's quotes, but I'll put my own messaging on top. And I'll share a little bit about that in a moment. Because here's why. When you do that, when you find quotes or messages that other people are sharing, make sure they align with what your values are and with what your business goals are and so forth. Because, and you don't want something that's like off the cuff. Every once in a while to share those cute little kid videos, or kitten videos or animal videos are cute, but for the most part, make sure they align with what you're doing. They have to be relatable to your audience, right? They kind of have to connect. You have to be able to connect the dots.
Yeah, or at least with what you love. And
exactly.
It's part of your world, or of your brand. Yeah.
Exactly. It has to be part of your brand. Exactly. So people really appreciate it when you share content that's relatable. And are likable, because they'll most likely, one of the things you might want to do is also make sure that you mention their names if you're sharing it and stuff like that, because they really like that appreciation of that recognition, because we don't get recognized enough. And then they usually return the favor and mention you in a comment or share something, and that brings more organic reach. Believe it or not, that's how I've gotten more people see my comments on other people's things, and they actually come and connect with me, and I've had several people in my inbox by the next day. So that's the best way to do organic reaching, as far as engaging with people's posts and stuff. But if you want to move beyond engagement, one of the tips I've learned from my coach was move into the content arena. And when you're sharing content that brings you clients, and that brings you make sure it's important enough information to share, and make sure you have a unique stand and a sharing a unique system. One of the things people look for is systems and processes that can help them get going and moving faster. So those are the 3 main tips. It's packed a big, powerful punch, made a difference in my social media marketing, and it will make a difference in your social media marketing as well. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are you ready to bring up the next guest?
Of course. After all these 3 tips, we go to, actually, we stay a little bit in the same topic, because our next guest is talking about marketing as well, but she decided to talk about the target. And Today, the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show with your host Mary Mason and Pliny Phoenix, we have a Chryssy Robinson. And Chryssy is a brand strategist, over 8 years of experience in helping small businesses owners to strategize their business operations and grow their online presence. And she's known for expertise in building and executing strategic content and marketing plans that get the results. So today's topic is about understanding your target market. So important, Mary, right?
It really is. I mean, because if you don't know what they need, then how are you going to be able to deliver to that? And then how are you going to be able to get hold of them, and how are they going to be able to hold of you? So
Oh my
I
gosh, yeah.
can't wait to find out Chrissy's little secrets and tips. So do you want to? So take it away, Chryssy. Are you here?
Yes, I am here. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to get in today. Got some actionable tips, of course, when it
Yay!
comes to target market, because everyone's talking about it. But thank you so much for having me. I'm ready.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Definitely. Yeah. So
Yeah,
anyway,
welcome.
so
We were chatting with Chryssy on the back, and she told us what she does, where she is in Michigan.
yeah.
But I'm really curious. With Mary, we start all the time our episode talking about how our guests started their career. So how did you end up actually? Because we saw your bio, and it's just crazy how many things you studied and how many things you did in the past.
You're so young looking too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want to get into age, but you must be
It's like-
somewhere in like your 20s, right?
It's like
I'm heading
3,
out
4
in 20s right now. I'm
Okay,
heading
so
out.
you're the tail end. I thought you might be. You're so young, and yet you've accomplished so much. So for someone in your age range, can't wait to hear your back end story, as brief as it can be, but it's something that's powerful and impactful, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
take
Tell
it
us how
away.
did you started in marketing and as a brand specialist.
So the funny story is that I didn't. So I actually went to school. To be perfectly honest, I picked my major. I'll never forget this. There was a flyer in my high school that said like the top 2 industries that make the most money, and I just picked the top 2, which at the time was business management and computer information systems. So close, nothing to do with marketing, but close. But what ended up happening, I've always been a creative. I've always been really like artsy and always putting my hands in things, and also had the strategic mindset. Like my first business was at 14. And so what ended up happening with that like creative mindset, meeting the business, I ended up getting my first job in tech. And how I started on the trajectory of digital design was I had this really great VP at a Fortune 500 tech company I was working at. And he basically was like, you can have whatever you want. And I was like, all right, great. I want a MacBook with Illustrator and Photoshop. Had nothing to do with my job title, by the way. I was a business analyst. And I took my first stab with, if you've ever touched like Photoshop or Illustrator, you know it's a monster. It's a monster. So
I know.
my first thing.
Canva. Does Canva count? I know Canva.
Not to designers, it doesn't count, but it does count. I will give you that. I will give you that. Some designers will say it
That's my
doesn't.
start. My start in design is in Canva. Beyond that, I don't know the other two.
No,
So
that stuff is so complicated.
Yeah,
exactly.
Giving a license to use it is just crazy. And even a friend of mine that is actually a graphic designer, he doesn't know what half of it does.
And that was going to be my point, is that I realized that you really only need to know about 20% of the tool to do like 80% of the work. Like you really don't need to know everything. So the approach I took was kind of like, I would get a job trying to do something, and it could be something simple, but I would say, okay, I'm going to learn how to do glitter in Photoshop, or I'm going to learn how to do this type of 3D text. So slowly but surely, I started to build my skill set. And slowly but surely, I'm here today running my own company doing this, self-taught designer. So I'm pretty proud of that. It's definitely been a journey, though.
Yeah. And you made a good point. No matter what you end up choosing to do as a profession, it is a journey. And it's not about that you arrive at it. It's not about that it's important that you start it and you keep going. And if you have to make pivots along the way. You did. You changed careers completely. And it's all about trial and error. And I keep telling that to my business students. I keep telling that to my clients. You have to know what works best for you. And And sometimes there's a season where it works great, and there's some times where you need to make those changes so it fits whatever's going on in your lifestyle at that time. So yeah, so don't be afraid to make the changes, which is a great message from your story. And oh my gosh, what a great success story you have too.
Yes,
So
thank you. Thank you.
yeah. So that brings us to our topic. Well, actually,
Mhm.
you kind of can sense that passion that you were there. So we'll dive into that, I'm sure, in one of our questions. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is there's so much to learn in this particular topic. So I want to come and address this. Why isn't it important that we find something that we can and find something that's really how should I phrase this question? Why is it that everyone should know that marketing is important, but I'm not sure how to phrase this question. Chris, do you have
Yeah.
any ideas
Yes,
what I'm
I
saying?
100%. Yeah, why does it matter, right?
Yeah,
Why does it
exactly.
matter that you
Yeah,
know your target market? And I think, to be fair, everyone, most of my clients at least, and even, anyone I connect with in a business, they use the term niche, they use the term target market, they use the term ideal client, but it's still not to the degree that it needs to be in order to do it right. So I think everyone knows that it's important, but there is a certain level of detail that you have to go into that makes the rest of your work much, much easier. Because if you think about it, right, we're all business owners and we have problems to solve. So who are you to say how you solve your client's problem without talking to them? Right? If you are thinking way too broad, which most people are, and we're going to get into that today, but if you're thinking way too broad, you have to kind of narrow it down to really speak to someone in particular. I'm a firm believer, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one, right? So
exactly.
exactly. So it's really important because it's really going to inform the strategic, really any system you build in your business is revolving around your customer. So why not know exactly who they are?
That's what exactly on point because that's what I was just saying to a couple people in my business team this week. I said you really need to be clear on your niche and also who your target market is because it's really hard to wrap your marketing message around it if it's too broad. If that so you were spot on that one.
Mhm.
So, Pliny, you want to ask the other question? We're gonna
Yeah.
tag team. So,
Tag team, let's do it. I'm ready.
uh-huh.
Yeah. When you actually, yeah, we are all, like you said, we are all entrepreneurs and probably a huge part of our audience. And I worked on that for my business, coaching business. And I had that problem. Like, I want to ask you actually, because maybe it applies to some of our audience, or maybe a lot of them, because we don't help people with only one thing, right?
Mhm.
We actually can solve more than one problem. And sometimes this service we can actually help people with are not under the same umbrella.
Mm.
So, and regarding like trying to get the target, how do you solve a problem like that? For example, yeah, let's take like my example, because I'm a singing coach, I'm a singing teacher, but
Mhm.
also I work with public speaking and confidence coaching.
Mhm.
So there are other things, and I guess like a lot of our listeners and watchers, they they have the same problem because we work with a lot of services. How do you solve that
Yeah,
before even meet our target?
absolutely.
That
So
makes sense.
yeah, absolutely it does. So this is why this is important, because those three things don't appeal to every single person. And so this is where we're all multi-passionate, right? It's not just
Mm.
you. Everyone's multi-passionate. Like, yes, I've had an event planning business. I've had a gym apparel business. Like I said, my first business was doing jewelry, like little bracelets and stuff.
Wow.
We have multiple passions.
Right.
However, when you're talking about, it's important to like kind of compartmentalize in your business. Like, yes, as the individual, the same way you might have a job somewhere and you work somewhere and you work for yourself, it's the same way that if you're able to identify who your target market is very clearly, you're able, when you're talking to them, know what to present. Otherwise, what happens is, because you have all of these things and you don't know who's in front of you don't know where to guide them, you don't know what to say. And so you feel like that person that's pulling up out of the trunk and like, hey, I got whatever you need. You know, you feel like that person that just is going to give you whatever you want, and just, you feel sleazy. You feel like a salesperson because you're just trying to give them anything instead of actually knowing who they are. So the first step is really to identify. And in your example, you would identify these 3 segments of audiences. And maybe there's some correlations and some threads you can tie between 2. Maybe we lump them together and target them together. But once you get really clear about who they are, okay, and we're going to talk about real deep today, because I think when people talk about this, it's way too high level. They don't talk about like the practicals of how you actually do this. And so when you really understand who they are, you see them in everyday people, and you're able to talk about what they care about and not what you have to offer. That's the biggest issue that I see with business owners. We're so busy like, me, I can help you. And the person's like, no, you can't. Like, you don't even know what my problem is. You don't even know what you actually solve for me.
Exactly, because you always get those crazy inbox messages saying, I can help you with XYZ before they even know. I'm here like, do you even know what I do? And I'm here like, I keep trying to tell people you need to ask, find out what it is that they want. It's sort of like what I refer to as needs-based selling in a sense, because you really want to know what they need before you can give them the options of which to choose, especially if you have more than one package, because there's not a one size fit all. So you have to be able to learn to be able to steer them in the direction that based on what they tell you. And you have to be good at putting on your listening ears, as I used to tell my kids when I was teaching for 20 years. So yeah, so you were spot on that. So yeah. Do you want to elaborate some more on that? Or I
Yeah,
hope I didn't
absolutely. I just
interrupt.
wanted to add one quick point on the listening. It's important to know that the way that we listen to people is not like what you hear me saying right now is not actually what I'm saying. Believe it or not. I know it's mind blowing. Your mind is putting it through a filter and trying to make sense of the details. Therefore, you're hearing things that are different. So if you apply that same thing in the way that you interact with your clients, you're going to then know, you're going to realize real quickly the notes you're writing on your paper about their problem is not their problem. Most people actually write their solution, right? A client can be coming to you like bawling and saying, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with this and I feel this and I feel that. And you're going to write down needs time management, needs to plan day. You're going to write down the solutions because naturally in your mind, you're filtering through the information. So one of the most practical tips I can give in this is recording the conversation so you get the language from them right out of their mouths. And you do not paraphrase, you do not try to generalize, you don't do any of that. You take exactly what they say, because 9 times out of 10, there's a whole segment of the market that feels exactly how they do.
Bingo. That's spot on.
Wow, this actually is a good one. Yeah.
And I love how simplified you put it there, because what it is some people forget to do the psychology behind it. And because there's, like you said, not everybody's always able to articulate exactly what their needs are. They only think that they have this problem, but sometimes there's an underlying problem that you have to learn to know how to dig out of them. And I think that's pretty much what you were cluing us in on how to do. So that's absolutely brilliant and spot on. Do you have another question before we go into Pliny? Do you have another question?
I have a last one, because there is a you said about listening. And you were right, like we needed to listen, because what they say is not all the truth. So we should go deeply and ask more stuff. Do you have any suggestion on how to listen and how to go deep and know more about our future maybe client?
Absolutely. So you're going to ask questions about where they are today. So when I tell people how to go about building this client profile that we're going to talk about today, you want to take it out of the context of a consultation. If you're doing consultations, you should somewhat know what your clients are struggling with. So I like to get it completely out of the sales conversation and just do a client interview where you're just talking to them about their day-to-day and what they care about. And this was really a game changer for me. So in my own story, I had, like everyone else, right? Everyone's telling me, do your target market research. Who's your target? I'm like, I know my target. I know what they need. No. So what I actually did, I finally listened and I was like, how can I go about this? I'm going to set up some interviews with some clients. I set up interviews with, I think, maybe six. I want to say either 6 or 15. Both of those numbers are feeling right to me. I'm not sure which one. In between there. I set up interviews, I recorded them, and then I transcribed them and I looked for the threads. And little did I find something. So most of my clients come to me because they need a website, they need a logo, they need marketing. It's very tangible. But what they're actually looking for is intangible. Every single one across the board, there were two themes of what they were actually looking for: how to increase their sales, make more money, grow more reach, etc., and how to grow and expand their company, whether that's team members, whether that's, again, sales, whether that's infrastructure, more properties. They had growth goals. So that immediately changed the way that I approach my consultations, because now I'm understanding, one, what the actual goal is. Before, in consultations, it felt more like a order form. What kind of website do you want? What pages do you want? What do the pages need to say? It was just like that. But instead, I pivoted and I was able to ask, well, what are you trying to solve? What do you believe your website is going to give you, right? What have you tried today to get to that goal? So I'm able to ask questions somewhat intuitively, but I do have kind of like some guidelines. Like, I love to use questions like, what have you tried? What are you reading today? Why isn't what you have today not working? Like, where are you looking for solutions? Try to really help them to understand that they have a problem, right? Because sometimes people get on that call and they're just, that maybe it's 2:00 in the morning and they're scrolling. They're like, I'm going to book this call with someone, and they show up just because they feel like they have to. But at that point, the need and the desire has died down. And so what you want to do is revisit that, bring that right back up. But if you're, I like to say, use your intuition, because the questions really depend on like who your actual target is, but figure out a way where you can understand exactly where they're struggling. And then you're going to take that, and in your consultations, help them to really see that by just asking and going deeper and deeper and deeper. Why is it that you feel that way? Well, why can't you hit your goals? And most times it's actually not what I offer. Honestly, it's actually not. I turn people away way more than I actually accept them.
Perfect. Now,
that's great. Thank you.
We're actually going to have to go to commercial break. Pliny, would you like to take us to commercial break?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Chryssy. It was really, really interesting. And stay with us, because Chryssy is coming back for the second part of our show. She shared the valuable tips, so she will come back. And Chryssy has agreed so to stick around. This ends this segment for our show. You're listening to the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show with your host, Mary Mason, and myself, co-host Pliny Phoenix. We'll be right back. We are going to commercial break now.
We're taking a short break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Marketing Mindset Mastery, the show that brings you the top speakers in the marketing and video industry, with your host, Marie Mason. The show is brought to you by Liberty Virtual Solutions. We work with business coaches and speakers to help them market and host their webinars and upsell their coaching programs and develop heart-centered relationships with their audience. Welcome back to the Marketing Mindset Mastery Show with your host, Marie Mason, a premier podcast that helps you master your marketing skills.
We're back.
Oh my gosh, that was commercial break. I'm always surprised how fast that commercial break goes. But welcome back to the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show with host Mason and our lovely and co-host Felix, and our guest Chryssy Robinson, and she is a brand strategist with over 800 experience in helping sellers strategize their business operations and grow their online business. Online business. She is known for expertise in building, executing content, and marketing plans. Today, she will talk to you about understanding your target market. So, Chryssy, I'm so glad you joined us. I had came up with a question for you. We were talking about like listening to our audience and stuff like that, and how to talk about how you were working with them as far as trying to find out what the real problems are. And then how most of us like to share are like our features, which is like the task and what we can solve, problems we solve, which is like, or like the social media, more like the decision posts and creating content, etc. But that's just examples of features. My question is, what's How does that define it?
It sounds. I think I got the gist of your question. There's a little bit of fuzziness with your audio, but
I'm
correct.
sorry.
Oh, are you there?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. So let me just repeat it because of the fact that we had a little static, and I apologize. Those are the sound gremlins, and that's my story. I'm going to stick to it. So anyway, that's the funny for the day. But long story short, my question is, we were talking earlier and how you were talking about listening to your audience and how most of us share the features. They share us what problems we can solve. Like they can share us if there's landing pages or if there's scheduling posts. Okay. Those are features. What's the difference between features and the deliverables? What is it that what's the outcome that they can give them? Can you give me some definitions and examples of that before we go into our next question?
Yeah, so I like to categorize it as the difference between features and benefits, or
Okay.
almost like results. So
Right.
what someone's actually looking for, let's use the website as an example because it's very tangible, right? They were looking for the features, right? They're telling me that they want the website, this page, these photos, these colors. They're giving me specifics. They want this type of speed, this. But what does it give you? And that's where you get into results. What does this fully optimized sales page give you? What are you anticipating? So I also talk about it with my clients in the beginning of every project. We talk about success metrics. So that's to me what you're speaking about, which is like, well, how do we define this as successful? What are you looking for? And it's different for everyone because I build a lot of websites. And so there's different goals depending on who the client is. But how do you define that? So if we're talking about like sales or in the sales cycle or even building landing pages, we're talking about features versus benefits. I don't really get into that. I'm more focused on individual clients because their needs could be different. Usually there's an umbrella that you can speak to, right? Most clients, when we're talking about websites, they're trying to grow their online presence or either build their community, which is kind of the same verbiage depending on who you're talking to. They're trying to, of course, increase sales. Have a larger footprint. There's usually growth and expansion goals around it, and that would be the deliverables or the results or the success metrics around what the actual feature is. The feature is what it is, and the end result is what clients really care about. They don't really care about what they're actually getting, to be perfectly honest. They don't care about coaching, right? That's not what it means to them. To them,
they want the bottom line.
Exactly. Right? The end result. What am I going to do? Or what are you going to do for me? Everyone's very self-seeking. What are you going to do for me? Just tell me.
I get that a lot. How about you, Blighty? Do you get that a lot with your business?
Well, the students that come to me, both for public speaking and confidence and singing, they think they know what they need, if that makes sense. I think this is actually the thing that we have in common. So they come to me and they think they know the problem, and most of the times it's that, but there is more. And my job is actually find out what the real problem is because they don't know. But I want to ask you, Chryssy, how do you work with your client? Because this is actually the problem with all the coaches out there. Like, we know that what they're looking for is not really what they need to achieve their goals. So it's something that you do, like guiding them to understand that, or you stick with their plan and then you help them later with what you know is actually the real issue?
Yeah, I love that question. So it's one of the things that I've had to learn, and it's a delicate balance. So I think it depends on how you're dealing with the client. So this is all to me in the beginning of the interaction, whether that's a discovery call, maybe it's your first coaching call. But what you want to really help them see, it doesn't matter what the solution is, right? It doesn't matter what they think they need. It doesn't matter what you think they need. The first thing you want to establish is the actual pain of where they are today, where they're struggling, where they're dropping the ball. Because when you uncover the truth, it becomes very clear what the solution is, right? So let's just take coaching, let's say life coaching, okay? For the sake of just being specific.
An example.
Yeah.
That's an example.
So if we're talking and you're telling me, oh, I don't feel like the best mother, I feel like I'm dropping the ball, my dishes are piled to the sky, you're telling me all these things. And I'm asking you, well, what's getting in the way of that? And I'm asking you prompting questions to make you say, you know what? I knew I was a hot mess, but I didn't know I was this kind of hot mess, right? And I just make you keep going down that road. I'm not going to stop until you scream out, please help me. The solution's there. Right? If you expose the pain enough, people will beg to work with you. And I experience this on a daily basis. If you expose it enough, and I love to use this analogy, coin me at it. I say it in all my talks. So I like to look at my clients or any customer when I'm building customer profiles as a bleeding patient. Okay. And I like to use that extreme example because people would not pay for something if they didn't think it was a real pain. Right? So you're not going, even if you sell a car wash, at the end of the day, that car wash is pretty important to you for you to take your time out and sit in the line and pay a little $2 and whatever you're going to pay. It's important to you. It's solving a really important, urgent need at that moment. People would not invest $1 unless it was important to them. But what you have to do is make sure that in that call, you express how important it is. And the way you do that is you uncover the pain and you uncover it completely to really like, please help me. Anything. You understand me. You're asking great questions that I've never considered before. Please just help me. Put me on the right path. Then it doesn't become a let me teach you or tell you what you need. Right?
And not begging them. It's more like they're coming to you, begging for you. And it's great because you just explain how to paint that picture for your client and how to address something without sitting there and sounding salesy or sleazy. Oh my gosh. When the calls I've had in the last lifetime would just blow your mind. So I won't go into those because don't want to waste all of our time talking about that. Because I'm sure we all have horror stories to share on that. That's a topic for another show, by the way. Maybe that could be another topic for another show. But anyway, long story short, that was brilliant. Now we did we? I don't know if we had a chance to get into the what is we talked about the target market and we've been talking about it throughout this whole thing and we defined it a little bit, but I don't think we really got into what it is and what is not, because that's kind of an important, because I know it's a lot of people focus on like the demographics, like the where and the tangible stuff, but there's other pieces to it. And I keep sharing that with my clients and students. There's more than just the location and the money that they're making and all the little knickknacks. So what else are we looking for? Can you give us that kind of 50-foot view or maybe get more specific?
Yeah, absolutely. The truth is a lot of people will kind of just tune into this already like, oh, I already know this, but I'm just going to see if I can learn something. Because we always, every single time, it never, ever fails. I will ask someone, who's your target market? Who's your ideal client? Who's your whatever? And they will always say, oh, I know who they are. They are 27-year-olds who are in college. I'm like, that's like half the world. Like
that's, or at least a quarter of
it's a nice chunk. That's literally any and everyone. I mean, there are people who identify as 27-year-old, and that would still be your target. They don't have to physically be. So we run into real details there. They don't have to actually physically be 25. But anyways,
that's a topic for a different show.
another show. But it's important to really get into an understanding of who they are on a personal level, on a day-to-day basis, where they're actually struggling. Right? What does it look like? So I love to build client profiles. They're also called, and you can Google this, by the way. So client profiles, customer personas, archetypes, the list goes on. It's just
avatars.
Avatars. Exactly. It's just a really clear depiction of who your target audience is. And it should be one person so that you can start to verbalize it. And I love doing this with clients simply because it helps them be able to speak about a person. So for example, I will create one named Ashley, and my clients will literally start to use this. And I've done this before, especially when we're building websites. It's important to understand the users, right? Which are the potential customers and clients. And so we're able to say, yeah, actually, Anthony wouldn't want that. Anthony doesn't care about this feature. We need to put this somewhere else. And we're able to make solid, strategic, again, decisions. As a brand strategist, I'm always concerned about strategy because otherwise you're just wasting your time. You're just doing stuff, right? You're busy work. But some of the things you can consider are, what are their traits? What are their lifestyles? What do they listen to? Where are they looking for you? Right? Where are they looking? And it's not necessarily they're typing you in, right? But they're looking for a solution to their problem. They're Googling something. My favorite question is, what's keeping them up at night? We all have trouble sleeping. So we're not everyone, but a lot of people do. And so when they're laying there in bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, what's crossing their mind? What keeps repeating over and over in their head? It's
My
your
to-do
problem.
list usually.
Yeah, exactly.
or brainstorming.
That's interesting, actually, Chryssy, because most of the requests that I receive online are around between midnight and 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's usually
Yeah,
what happens.
usually I'm up.
Yep.
I'm usually up that time.
That's usually what happens. We're sitting up and we're like, oh my gosh, I can't hit my goals. I need some help. And then we schedule that call, and then we're like, oh crap, in the morning we feel better than because we're not sleep deprived, we're not distracting ourselves with YouTube and all the other things. And then, but we still commit, we still show up to that call. So it's important for you to go right back into that and make them revisit why they're actually there. There is a real problem. It just doesn't feel as intense that next day. So again, values, interests, what do they want to know? What do they care about? What don't they care about? That's a really important question. What do they not care about? Because it doesn't make sense for me to talk about all the bells and whistles of this website when they're really just trying to create a new revenue stream, right? It doesn't matter that I'm talking about chat or something else, some crazy feature, if they're just trying to do one thing over here. So it's important to understand what are their goals and what do they actually care about and what don't they?
No, brilliant. Spot on. So do you have any other things to add to that, Pliny, or something come up?
No, regarding this topic, like there is so much to say. Chryssy, you have to come back.
We might have to have you come back in September. I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We might have more information to we gotta I got an idea. We should do a monthly pick Chrissy's brain kind of show. There you go. So definitely we might just have that. I'm sure I made Rebel laugh in the background. So anyway, she loves rolling with things too. So anyway, we just go on the fly sometimes. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Like you said, what we are looking for in identifying our target audience. So trying to find that peculiar person that represent our best ideal client. But how do you practically do it? How do you go practically about it?
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I alluded to it a little bit in the beginning, but I want to really, really constantly like beat this in. In the early stages, everyone tells you to do target market research. And I can tell you, there is no database full of your target market research. Like I remember people telling me, go look it up and go talk to people, go do this, go do that. And I was literally like Googling people who want websites, business owners, trying to understand them. The best way is to talk to the source. Go right in and talk to the source. This can be past clients. This can be past potential clients. This can be anyone already in your existing network that meets what you believe to be your criteria. Because you might, with talking with different people, you might end up changing who you're targeting. That's the beauty of it. I love to think about it like this. Would you rather invest a little bit of time and talk to some people, just some casual conversations, right? Invest a little bit of time and then know what you're doing actually helps them? Or sit in your own little brain and overcomplicate everything and come up with these packages that no one actually cares about. It's investing this tad amount of time and doing the work and understanding who they are on a personal. And when I say personal, it doesn't mean that we're asking business owners, like, what do you do for fun? I mean, we just want to understand who they are, not what they are, not what you see, but like what's beyond the surface. Right? How do they think? What makes them tick? What's important to them? You want to know all those things. And then it's important that you take this out of the context of a sales call, because if you start thinking, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to sell, you completely change how they even approach their vulnerability and them being open and honest with you. And again, you're going to record this. I use Zoom. I record it on the calls. I transcribe it. Yep. I transcribe it. And then more importantly, pro tip here, go back and listen to it and watch it. Check your own body language, right? And I tell the people to do this all the time, even in sales calls. One of the best things that helped me is watching my old discovery calls. Like, so I would have one and then I would watch it and I would pay attention to when I say certain things, the differences in the body language, open, closed, a deep breath, aside, the things you don't pick up on during the call because you're so busy focused on making sure there's no quietness. Embrace the awkward moments, guys. Embrace it. But you're trying not to make it awkward, or you're trying to make sure you hit all the points, trying to make sure you got your questions answered, trying to make sure they feel good. You're just doing too much to really be present in the moment. Go back and watch it, and I guarantee you'll take some notes and be like, yeah, I don't, that didn't come off, that wasn't authentic to me, etc. But
That's exactly, you were
yeah.
spot on. I did that a lot myself, especially when the last year or so, because I didn't always remember to record things because I also didn't always have Zoom. I had, you know how like at the beginning you're trying to juggle different platforms and trying to figure out what works and doesn't. Well, go with what works best for you, but then be consistent at using a platform like Zoom, for example, in this case. So, and then do what you said. Definitely follow that. Definitely record it, and definitely make sure that you review it and take time to review it and take notes. I was going to ask you, what do you use to transcribe it, or how do you just sit down and just take notes from it? Or, I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
was kind of asking about that.
yeah, absolutely. I use it used to be called Timmy, TMI. And you
Okay.
get like your first, I think it's like 4 minutes free or something like that. You put in an email. But they rebranded, if you type it in, it still works, but they've rebranded to rev.com.
Rev. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is also Otter
Yeah,
for
Otter has free
transcriptions.
ones
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Otter's free up to, I think, the first 20 to 40 minutes, I think. But I think but then there's packages beyond that. So that's just something
But you
there's,
can record on Zoom. So
yeah,
if you get calls on Zoom or Skype, you can record the call.
Mm-hmm. And
You can
it's
even
really,
send it to the client. Maybe you are talking about something, you give some advice just to talking to a person. And most of the times, like 95% of the people that talk to me in a discovery call, they're really interested on getting the recording of our call.
yes.
So it can be interesting for you, but for them too. So it's easy to ask a person, do you want to record? I might say something that it's valuable to you, and they say, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that
that's
is,
it. Absolutely. And two important notes on Zoom. One, there's a setting where you can do it where auto records. All my calls are recorded now. And then two, they just changed it recently where it automatically tells everyone they're being recorded. So there's no longer that like awkward like, and it also announces it very loud. It's like, you are recording.
Oh, it's creepy.
oh, it's obnoxious. And
It's a creepy voice.
I used to call it the Zoom lady. I call it Xena now for short because I'm so tired of I wanted to give it a name because I'm like, don't mind Xena. She's just doing her thing. And
Yeah.
actually, if you haven't noticed it this lately in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed her voice tone has changed a little bit and it's a little less obnoxious. So, anyway, so I guess there's been enough complaints to Zoom saying, y'all need to fix this feature. So anyway,
That was
but anyway.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like really an obvious one.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Terminator is coming alive.
So anyway, but long story short, they are working on it. So that's making improvements. I don't know how quickly it's going to be with the other improvements, but hopefully soon. But long story
But
short,
that was
the
a
point.
great tip because even when you do acting or when you sing, that's a great tip. Like record yourself and look back. And for all the people that hate to be to see themselves on video, get over it because it's just you. Other people don't think what you're thinking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
valuable. Chryssy, how do you, quick one because we almost finished, but how do you actually use all that stuff about what people like and don't like in your marketing
Like
that
how
it's
to apply
valuable
it?
for your target? Yeah.
Like how to apply it in the marketing? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So literally, I take those topics. So for example, if you're building a client profile, let's just say, what do they care about? And let's just say they care about, we got to meet them where they are. So in the scenario where they care about websites, I'm going to give them 10 things to optimize your sites to what?
I
Increase
see.
sales because they care about sales. So I meet them where they are and say, hey, I know you're looking for a website and this is how you can get your goals because I know what your goals really are. But most people, when they're looking for a website, they never come to me and say, hey, I want to make money. They never say that. They say I need a website. But so you just use that language and make sure that, especially pro tip, again, use their language as much as you can in your copy. If you think about it like this, when you're reading copy anywhere or just words anywhere, you're reading it in your voice. So if it sounds like something you would say, it's really going to hit. It's really going to hit. So it's important that you use their language so that when they're reading it in their own minds, they're like, oh my gosh, I literally get this reaction from clients all the time. They're like, do you have a camera in my office? How do you know? They get like this naked feeling. And it's because I know who you are and I've talked to them multiple times.
I get that. You get to know people.
That's great.
So, yeah. That's so cool. Well, we're actually the last few minutes of the show, and I know you've got a call to action because I'm going to make that what you just shared, the tip that you want to share with our audience about that. So that was a great tip. So now we need to you have a gift you wanted to share with the audience, and then we need to close out the show, believe it or not. So real quick, can you say in a sentence what that wonderful item is?
Yeah, I just wanted to, just open up. If you guys want to discuss, you can set up a free discovery call on my website. So it's coloraddict.com. Color Addict spelled with K's. So KOLORADDKT.com. It's a mouthful.
It is, but oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. It has been such a pleasure to have you. Chryssy, we're going to have to make you a monthly guest, I think. It's called Pick Chryssy's Brain, I think might be the topic of that one. So the top tips. So anyway, I think we might have a regular for the show. That's cool. Bonnie, I hope you're okay with that. But
no, Chryssy, that was amazing. And the way you talk about this, it's really clear, and I really loved listening to you.
Thank you.
Great voice. So thanks, Chryssy Robinson, for showing so many valuable tips to our audience on how to grow themselves and their business on the Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show. Her topic today was understanding your target market. That was a very well pieced together topic. And oh my gosh, you learned a lot. So definitely come back and listen to the replay. I want to encourage you to take advantage of our offer here. That is KOLORADDIKT.com/discovery. You also can grab the link to book a call with her, and you can do that on the W4CY.com radio station page. We'll have it on YouTube soon and other platforms as well. So you'll be so glad that you took advantage of this gift. Don't forget to check out the merchandise shop that we have. We have a Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio shop, and I'm doing a special thing that I wanted to share with you and our audience. During the month of August, for every time someone purchases a backpack, and it's a cute little backpack too, and we will actually give a $5 gift card towards a classroom in our local area so that the teachers can get supplies for their kids. So that is my giving back to our community for the month of August. We will probably even run it in the month of September, just to be able to help the kids and their teachers. And if we need to, we'll even continue it through the school year, because boy, they have so much needs for different things, and they're so expensive these days. So Pliny, would you like to close out the show?
Yes, absolutely. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much, Chryssy, for being with us. So we hope to see you again very, very soon. Thank you all, guys, for listening to us and watching us on W4CY Radio. This was, again, our episode, the Thursday at 6, like every week. Come back again at our Marketing Mindset Mastery Radio Show. Join us next week. We stream every Thursday at 6. And don't forget to like, share, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our show each week. Until next time, this is Pliny Phoenix with our host, Mary Manson. And for now, bye. And we'll see you next week. This ends this week's show. See ya.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Go to our radio page and check out the gifts from our speakers. We'll see you next time on Marketing Mindset Mastery with your host, Marie Mason.